Shammi. I'm from Bangladesh. I've been living in the Netherlands now for 11 years, a little bit more than that. I live here with my husband and my 2.5-year-old daughter. And yeah, I'm currently in Moneyou as head of software engineering.
Mhm.
And yeah, so today here we're here to see how I can share also my story and hopefully inspire others and maybe give a little bit of tips and tricks here that can help others. So thank you for having
So
me.
I guess to kick off then, could you just kind of speak a bit about your career in tech and kind of how you got to where you are today and what made you, I guess, what made you get into a career in tech in the first place?
Yeah, sure. Wow. Let's see. I think it all started when I was 11 years or so. I got my first computer at that time, and
Yeah.
and I used to be fascinated by it, just like any other child, I suppose. And I remember being so fascinated that whenever there was an issue and it seemed like a problem with the CPU, I used to open it up and look into it. And the motherboard fascinated me with the circuitry, and it
Oh,
just looked like a
such a
mini
young
computer
age as
to me.
well.
Yeah. I remember taking, adjusting the RAM just to see, okay, if everything's okay or not. So, um, anyway, past that, finished my high school, and I was wondering what to do next, what to study next, and that's where my mother comes in the picture. She
Yeah.
just suggested I study computer science, and I gladly pursued it. And
Must always know,
yeah,
really.
yeah, they do. They're very observant, I think so. Yeah. And then, yeah, so I was studying in computer science back in Bangladesh, and I remember it was just us two girls and in a big batch of boys, but that wasn't a problem at all. It was just, working hard and doing projects together. I'm so lucky. I had a very talented group of people to work with,
Yeah.
and I did a lot of projects with them and learned a lot.
How did
Um,
you find the balance there? Was there kind of any difficulties with like the girls in the class? Were the boys like
um,
make you in any way?
No,
Not.
no, not particularly. Not that I recall. I think everyone was just passionate about the study and wanted to do a lot and help each other a lot. So I didn't particularly have any trouble, thankfully.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, we were just, loaded with work. So all we did was just, do homework and projects and do what needed to be done.
Mhm.
The reason why I'm so lucky to be in part of a set of a particular group is that that group really did a lot of projects within the university and outside. And through that, I gained a lot of experience and network as well that helped me thereafter.
Yeah.
So after my graduation, before doing my master's, I actually started working and I got a few projects which I did in testing and programming.
Mhm.
And that led onwards to my future endeavors.
Mhm.
Um, so being part of that group in that technical industry also allowed me to learn about different concepts and further pursue it. So then I came to Netherlands. I started working in Rabobank, and from Rabobank I did my master's again in TU Delft. I did my master's in management and technology. For some reason, I wanted to learn about management and what it was all about, but I didn't want to go away from IT.
Yeah.
So I specialized in ICT management. And afterwards, yeah, just was part of in very interesting and complex projects. So I suppose when you're, learning a lot in complex projects, you get exposure to so many things.
Yeah.
And that actually helped me gain further knowledge and expand my skill set in building high performing teams,
Mm.
also seeing how I can help others further on.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of, yeah, background.
Been in the industry for a while now. You've been like navigating your career. Could you kind of give some of your, I guess, top tips for balancing like a career in tech as well as having a life and outside of work and still kind of working on having a successful career, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're interested in something, you'll find time for it.
Right.
First and foremost, and you make time somehow. But if you really want to go to a particular direction, I think some key things that you can take into account. First of all, prioritize. I think identify what is important to you, what is important in your life, and prioritize activities around that. There was a time where projects were and work was the priority of my life, so I dived into that. And right now, my daughter is my priority, so I plan my activities around that. So find out what's important and then plan around. So prioritize. The next step, I would say, focus. Always remember what you want to do and make time for that.
Yeah.
I
guess it's so easy to forget that one as well. Like, it's so easy to kind of just get lost in work and forget why you got into that and why you enjoyed it in the first place. So that's a really good one, just to bring yourself back to why it is that you're doing what you're doing.
Exactly. I mean, do you recall sometimes, when we're so bogged down at work, we don't spend time and we forget. And then we find out, okay, oh, shoot, I have forgot about this course I wanted to take for personal development, right? So that doesn't happen. So for that, I would really, really recommend block an hour or two in your calendar.
Yeah.
Either weekly or bi-weekly, doesn't matter, but literally block it so that you actively spend time on it. And when you do, just actively say to your brain that I'm going to focus on this now and I'm going to deal with the rest later unless it's urgent.
Yeah, it's so important to do that because it's so easy for things to just fly in and you just forget where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that helped me further, doing the work, but also balancing out, is build gap habits. I don't know if you've heard this term, but I heard this term by Jay Shetty. He's a monk and he does all this podcast. I wasn't aware of this term, but I actually did it. And gap habits is basically, our brains are programmed and learn a lot when doing repetitive action and do not require any thinking anymore. So for example, when you're getting ready or when you know that train you have to take and you travel to work, you're not really thinking about that. You're auto drive, right? So during those moments, do something that you can learn something new. And the key word here is, so read a book, or listen to a podcast, or just follow a particular thread in Twitter. Learn something new. So during that moment, you build these gap habits, and through those gap habits, you gain a lot of knowledge throughout the day. And that some way or somehow comes up in some moment in time that will be very useful for you. So that's something that was
a really great tip.
Yeah. So hope that helps. The other thing to balancing work and life, I would say, never forget to dream big and challenge yourself. And challenge yourself. That's like key. Don't let yourself get stagnant. Once you challenge yourself, then you prioritize, you focus, and you find ways to deal with it.
Yeah, I think that's another one. It's so easy to just get comfortable, isn't it? And you've been in the same job for a long time and you just you go about your daily routine. It's so easy to just think, oh well, this is comfortable, this is nice. But like you said, it's important to shake things up a bit now and then and just put yourself in an uncomfortable situation.
Sometimes it's just nice to be comfortable, though.
That's true. That, could you kind of give us your advice on like productivity and keeping like a team culture and keeping morale high and things like that at the moment?
Yeah, times are tough right now. It's all a jumble.
Yeah, it's a weird, strange time.
It is. No, truly, it's sad, but that is indeed the times we're living right now. I think, we cannot expect anyone to work 9 to 5 or be completely productive. What we can expect is to empathize with each other, understand, and help as much as possible. So that's key. But to really see how we can do that, I think for productivity, you'll have to focus. Again, I keep saying this word, focus, but the focus is very important. So when you're focusing on the work, really focus on that. So that would be one thing. Prioritize. Again, why I say prioritize is maybe looking at your schedule for the following day in advance and identifying what are your, personal activities versus work-related activities. You can plan around that. And then you can communicate that to your team members so that they help you and help themselves. So that way, let's say you have to go take your dog out, or your prepare lunch for your child or something. If you can somehow let these things know, that helps, I think.
Yeah, I think communication is so key at a time like this, because it's so hard to know, what people are doing and what's important for people, because it's important to kind of keep that work-life balance, but when you're not face to face with people all the time, it's hard to kind of know whether someone's making their lunch at that time.
Absolutely. And just to maintain that culture, I think connection, like connect with people as much as possible in any way you can, through a text, through a video chat, through virtual coffees, you name it.
Yeah.
So that's so important, to connect. So I would say, connect, prioritize, and focus would be some ways to keep that culture still intact.
What kind of are some of the benefits and challenges, do you think, of managing teams remotely?
Yeah, I think the benefits are some way benefits, but also challenges, and I'll explain why. For example, productivity. You can get a lot done when you're, working from home, and you have that time. You don't really, spend time on other things that are also important, but you're just, working. So productivity can be great. But on the other hand, it can be very challenging for managers, for example, to measure progress. So how we do it at Moneyou is the POs, the product owners, are very, very involved with the team. And through stand-ups, refinement sessions, we have this bi-weekly sprint progress review where all of the teams present their work. And through those mechanisms, we can share the progress of the team. So that's something that can be, productivity can be a challenge as well, and a benefit. The other thing, I think culture. Culture is definitely a challenge, but what I've also noticed that culture also intensifies. And yeah, because when you're really, spending so much effort and collaborating and communicating, you're bonding a lot actually with your team members. So that way it intensifies. But on the other hand, due to the mere lack of physical involvement with each other, as we're social human beings, you miss that. So, so what we try to do, for example, we still keep our virtual coffees. We even have workout sessions.
I've heard of a few people doing that.
Yeah, that's actually, some people who like it quite much. And we also have engineering gatherings, so we still keep that. So that's one.
Yeah, I think, like you said, it can be, it can be a benefit and a challenge, because I think you kind of find yourself checking in with people more and maybe having more of like off work topic chats, because you're going out of your way to make sure that everyone's kind of feeling all right, and their morale's okay and stuff like that. So, but also, it's hard to keep culture and things like that can be a bit more difficult when you're not in an office and
no, exactly,
around everyone every day.
That's the communication part, right? You're spending so much time in communicating as well, which is a great benefit, because you're very mindful on one end, but on the other hand, it is a challenge to be that mindful as well.
Yeah, as well as work and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say, yeah, the benefits are benefits, but also challenges in some way or another.
Slightly. What kind of advice do you have for other women looking to succeed in a career in tech, and what kind of recommendations do you have for kind of standing out against the competition? I guess like, you know, there might be people kind of looking for jobs at the moment. So yeah, what kind of advice do you have in the way of kind of standing out, and for women specifically kind of looking to kind of elevate their careers?
Yeah. I think, you know, given the current situation, of course, that's a bit, the circumstances are different.
Yeah.
But in general, I would say, really, for me, I've always trusted my instincts. So I went with my instincts, and I did what I had to do. So my advice to women out there would be, you know, try to find out what really interests you and dive into that interest. And if you dive into that interest and you work hard, success will follow some way or another. It's just really about keeping your interest and working hard at it. And I'm sure, you know, through that journey, you'll face problems and challenges. And when you do, think about, and this is a phrase I actually learned from a course in branded you, and that really stood out. This phrase really stood out to me, and that is, what would I do if I weren't afraid?
Yeah.
It just, you know, it really sparks you, and it makes you think of, all right, I'm just going to do the next step. That really stood out to me.
Like, so I guess like, what's the worst that could happen, right? Like,
And just do it,
yeah,
and dive into it. So, and then see what happens, you know. So to me, I really like that phrase, and that's also, you know, me giving it back towards others as well.
yeah,
Just think about, what would you do if you weren't afraid, and just do it.
yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's a good one, because I think a lot of the time, you know, if you don't act on something, then you're left wondering, what if? Like, what if I had done that? What if I had asked that question, or made that move, or applied to that job, or something like that? And if you don't do it, it's kind of almost worse than just getting the no, or just, you know, the
Yeah.
not knowing.
Yeah. Yeah. And find the people that can help you. You know, find that support system,
Yeah.
network. That's important thing. So people who can uplift you, who can really, you know, knows your potential and can, you know, help you in their network. So that will certainly help, I believe.
Do you have any tips on kind of networking in the current circumstances, and kind of speaking to people and getting yourself out there in, you know, a remote situation?
Yeah, so I've haven't been a really good networking person myself, so I won't be able to give the best tips. But I did find it useful that, you know, being in LinkedIn or other networks can, and following with the topics. Look for the people who are excelling in those topics and reach out to them, you know, and ask them questions that you want to know more about. And I'm sure people will, you know, help either answer those questions or redirect to someone that, well, in these current circumstances, everyone is so understanding and helping each other out. And I think people can make use of that and learn from that. So that would be my tip. Find the topic and find the people who are knowledgeable in that topic, reach out to them, and I'm sure they will help you with that information.
Yeah, I think, and like you said, now especially, it seems like everyone is so willing to help. Everyone is so community minded, and so now more than ever is probably the best time to reach out to people. And
It's wonderful, isn't it?
it is, it's so
Everyone
nice.
is listening. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, everyone just seems to be, you know, all for the community and all for like helping everyone out. So
I
yeah,
hope it stays.
me too. I hope that's, yeah, one positive that comes out of all of this. Definitely.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what are kind of some of the key traits would you say that are needed for success in a career in tech?
Yeah. I think it's so important to be curious, but that goes for any profession for that matter. But curiosity is something that will, enable you to learn more and question more. I think curiosity is a very important trait to have. Being analytical in the tech industry and being able to, reason and be data oriented, that's very important. Persistence. That's a very good trait to have for any profession as well, but also in the tech industry as a woman. If you want to achieve something, if you want to get a message across, and if you want to, uh, accomplish something, don't give up. Try again, maybe in a different way, but be persistent. So that's the third trait. Another trait that is not so prominent now, but I like to believe that we're heading towards that, is being empathetic. So by being empathetic, I think as a person, as an individual, you can be more understanding and lead in an understanding way as well, and be respected as well. Yeah.
Thank you. So what then are some of the, I guess, the biggest challenges you faced throughout your career in tech and getting to where you are today?
Yeah, I'm sure everyone has faced challenges in some way or another, but I think it's really more about, history and society, how everything is groomed. In different kind of industries, just like the tech industry, there has been a good share of judgment, bit of mansplaining, intimidation, and I think everyone goes through that. It's important to remember and know that people aren't aware that they do that. So as women, I think we should be aware that, people aren't aware, and help them understand how it affects us. And with compassion, knowledge, and respect, I think it is possible to overcome it. And I faced such challenges, and that's how I overcame it. Yeah.
It's about explaining, right? Because I never kind of thought of it like that. Some people might not realize what they're doing. So
Yeah.
it's like you said, being empathetic and explaining.
Yeah. And just, talking about it, that, hey, I've noticed this is what you said to me, and this is how it made me feel. I'm sure you didn't mean it that way, but I would like it if, we can work about this in such and such a way. Yeah. And I think when you explain it to somebody, they usually understand and they want to work and collaborate with you further. So you don't have to be aggressive or, be assertive. You can still be humble and resolve. And what is also important to know is not everyone is like that. So find the people, find the people who have a listening ear, and enable to empower others. So that will certainly help.
How do you think that, as a community, we can kind of empower and encourage more women to take up careers in tech?
Yeah, as a community, I think what we can do is, it starts being very young. As a community, I think through education, through STEM education, for example, having people as role models, I think will help. Inviting these role models to institutions like schools and sharing their stories, that will help. I also feel that we are focusing a lot on women to share their stories, but equally, I think it's also important to find men who has had a positive and empowering experience with a woman and give them the spotlight to share their story, because that will create a positive ripple effect to other men as well, I think.
Right, yeah, it's on, I guess, on both men and women to kind of encourage. And like you said, I guess it's about kind of nurturing that future pipeline of talent we have, and encouraging people at a younger age, and letting them know that tech's an accessible kind of career for women and men and everyone.
Absolutely. And of course, build that culture within your organization. We often aren't aware of gender biasness, but it does exist in some level or another. So if we can foster and focus on empowering skills and promoting skills, and that will be a healthier way to reduce that biasness, I think.
Okay, so my next question is quite ambiguous, but feel free to just answer it in any way you want. So, kind of, what changes do you predict for the future of women in tech? I guess, especially at the moment, this is quite difficult to answer. But yeah, what changes do you predict, and kind of what are you hoping to see in the future?
What changes? I do think a lot is happening at this moment. So change is happening, which is great. I think that initiatives like this, where women's stories are being shared and creating exposure, that's certainly going to increase more and more and help a lot more and more, because through exposure and empowerment we can get the stories across, but also families can identify these role models to show their children, for example. I hope to see that companies are being more aware of those gender biases, and they can foster that empowering workforce. And I see, initiatives like this happening more, and companies being more aware of it as well. I don't expect things will go at a very fast rate, but it is happening, and I'm sure that it will more and more increase. Yeah.
So, finally, then, last question: what is the best piece of advice that you've received throughout your career that you can share with anyone watching or listening?
Best piece of advice. It's not an advice, but it's a subtle phrase that my father had said once that kind of unconsciously stuck in my mind. And that is always remember that before you're a female, you're a human being.
Wow.
And that just stuck with me. And for some reason, I just did what I had to do and what was right. And I didn't really think about whether I am a female sitting in a room full of men or not. I just, looked at the topic and I did what I had to do. So yeah, and that was a very powerful phrase for me. Yeah.
It's a very powerful phrase, I think, and it kind of helps you just remember, like you said, you're a human being. So if you want to do something and it's just a room full of men, who cares? If you're a man and you want to do something and it's a room full of women, who cares?
And same goes for introverts, right?
Yeah.
So it's not really a matter of men and women. I think it's really about, think of your rights and think of as a person, what would you do? And just do it. Again, into that phrase again, right? What would I do if I weren't afraid? And then just do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think all of this kind of comes down to communication, like just putting yourself out there and communicating what it is that you want and what, how you want to achieve things, and you'll get there. But yeah, that's a really, really good piece to end on, definitely.
Thank you. Yeah, certainly helped me shape my career and myself. The first time I'm doing this, I haven't been a person that was really out there, so I hope my little attempt will also encourage other women to share their stories and empower each other. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.